Yes, indeed, it's a year ago that we lost a person that I had known both personally and professionally. When I remember Ohage, I think of meeting him in Lusaka for the first time when I left the country into exile, and he was the director of the Namibian United Nations Institute for Namibia. And as it has always been, you hear about the Semniomas and the Geingobs and the Kurirabs and the Kachavivis, but you had never met them. So it was kind of like, wow, here are the people that we only hear about, and here I'm meeting with him. And since then, we always had this kind of personal relationship with him. I saw him as an older brother, as an uncle, and always caring for me. When I was living in the refugee camp in Nyango, he was one of those that would send me a parcel whenever it was holiday and students came to Nyango. But where I really remember him was spending 3 months in his house after I gave birth to my baby daughter, and living in his house with him, and really got to know the type of person that he is. We had our differences, living in his house. Sometimes we don't talk to each other. But normally it would be, sitting and arguing about, Namibia and what our expectations are of Namibia. I can talk a lot professionally, but I'm sure I would be able to. But yes, that's the person that I have known since 1977.
President Geingob led Namibia through a complex period. Looking back, what do you then consider his most significant achievement, and why?
I was very privileged in 1991 when I joined the Public Service Commission. I had no clue about what the Public Service Commission's role and functions were. But the one thing that he reminded me when he nominated me to serve on the commission was we had, it's now our role and our responsibilities to create an effective and efficient public service, transforming from what was the South African-led public service to an independent public service, to a public service in an independent Namibia. It was really a privilege to work with him. He brought with him his experience as the director of the United Nations Institute for Namibia, where he was actually responsible for preparing Namibians for an independent Namibian public service. I served under his watch for almost 7 years. He was a stricter for detail. He really guided us as to what type of administration. He taught me about the importance of service to our people. And I knew that whenever I wanted guidance, I could approach him and discuss matters with him. So for me, the turning point for us and his leadership was as Prime Minister of Namibia, having transformed a civil service that was geared under apartheid towards servicing only one sector of the Namibian population to a public service that was at the service of all the people. And that for me, having served with him at that time, at a very critical time in the history of our country, shortly after independence, was really, for me, the one challenge that I can attribute to him. Obviously, people will talk about him steering the constitution making, etc., etc. But for me, I think I want to speak from a perspective of having worked under his guidance and being able to to bring about a balanced, structured public service, change laws that were or rules that discriminated against women, and that was under his watch.
Ma'am, having worked under Geingob's watch, like you said, you have both held prominent positions in the Namibian government as well. What is it that you take from him as a leader that you always would go back to say, I also want to do this because Hage taught me this?
The one thing that Hage did not tolerate was when you come to him and you want to make a case, he will interrogate you. He will ask you questions.
Mm-hmm.
And if you are not in a position to respond to those questions, he would always tell you, you have not thought through this. Don't come to me with problems. Come to me with solutions. That was for me a leadership skill that I took from him, and I know that those that worked under me would always ask me, why do I have to ask so many questions? And I said, if you cannot answer questions, that means you are not convinced about the solution or the proposal that you are making. And that I definitely take away from him. It's not always easy to be interrogated, to be asked questions, and you would sometimes say, but why is he trying to be so difficult?
Mm-hmm.
But he was not difficult. He was just trying to teach people that when you come up with a proposal, when you make a decision, make it on the basis of knowing what are the consequences of the decision that you are going to take. Have you thought through the different options? And I can take it. I can say that I take that from him, that questioning attitude. Sometimes one would say, oh gosh, he was so arrogant.
Mm-hmm.
He was so whatever it is. And yes, you would have, I had many, many, many differences with him.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I respected him because he was well-read. He was well-meaning in what he was trying to do. And, he has been a mentor for many of us.
Now, President Geingob was known for championing democracy and governance. In what ways did he then strengthen Namibia's democratic institutions?
He respected the Namibian constitution, a constitution that he led the drafting of the constitution. He took that very, very seriously. I also believe that he respected human rights. He respected diversity. And that's why a lot of people would say, yeah, but why is, sometimes he does not treat his own people. And his own people, meaning Damara people, well. And the question was always, when I became the president of this country, I became a president for all the people of Namibia. And therefore, the unity that he forged, the slogan, it's still ringing loud in our heads when he keep on reminding us about the Namibian house.
Mm-hmm.
The one thing that he keep on saying is no one should feel left out. He did not say no one should not be left out. But if you feel left out, that is the difference. It's not about somebody leaving you out. But if you feel left out, that was a problem. And that's how he used to explain to me why he made that difference of not just being left out by somebody else, but that you feel left out. And so, there were a lot of things that he did. He had a stature outside of Namibia. He was respected, wherever he go, and he would always put Namibia first. He would talk about Namibia. But also he had international exposure. He worked for the UN. He was the SWAPO representative, and he brought that with him. He was an internationalist. And so when some of us joined the AU and the UN, I felt I was, I was following the footsteps of people like Ohage, Otube and Gurirab, and people that were in, working in those institutions. But respect for human rights, that I can say he upholds human rights of all in Namibia. Gender equality, he supported women. He made sure that women had a voice, had a seat at the table. He really loved interacting with young people, listening to them, interacting with them, and I think that's how you build democracy. You listen to people, and you make sure that people have got that voice and that space to say whatever they want. And I also feel during Ohage's time, he was belittled. People said a lot of things against him, but he held his head high and he said, we created this democratic space for people to criticize, for people to vent their anger. But the one thing that I never liked was the disrespect that Namibians shown towards Ohage. That I will not forget.